Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Isaiah from Prather Audio, and today I'm going to be showing you how to add some ear candy to your vocal production to make it sound larger than life. So this first one here is a super simple one, and I'm sure you've heard it a million times in songs before, but it's often overlooked when you're going to write your own songs, and it's just adding a simple vocal throw. So what I like to do is just have this little track preset that I keep on all of my sessions, and it's essentially just a little throw that I can just drag and cut any word from any track that I'm working on and be able to pull it into my session to work on it. What I like to do is just go around, find a word that I need to cut, and just drag it right onto the track and be able to work from there. So to get this chain, it's super simple. I just have a quick limiter on here that's just gonna be chomping down a little bit on the transient, just making sure that we're not losing any syllables in case a word I throw in there is kind of quiet. As you can tell, this word is just one word, so you're not gonna really be losing anything. And then the next plugin we got on here is the virtual mix rack, which is just a super simple. I have a Bluey into just a normal 1176. Pretty much just trying to smash on this vocal and give it a really compressed sound. And I also have this New York SSL on here that I'm doing a little bit of distortion with. So I'll show you how I pretty much dial this, and it's gonna add quite a bit of compression and pretty much body to this one. So as you can tell, I'm compressing pretty hard on these, and I'm also hitting the distortion pretty hard. Next thing I do is I hit it with the de-esser, because if there is any harsh S's, I definitely don't want them to be repeated. After that, we're going into our delay. Now on the delay, you can do a lot of different things with the settings. The most important thing when you're using a delay and trying to do these though is make sure you have the BPM set. Obviously, if you're running it on host, you should be completely fine. And what I like to do is run this on 100% wet, because you should be layering this under your main vocal, and then I'll do a volume adjustment to get the mix of it right against the actual main. On here, I really like to do a really high pass. Anytime that I have any delays on the vocals that are going on in the 500 hertz area, like it just doesn't sound right to my ears and it starts to get too muddy. And then for the low pass, I'm cutting that off pretty high up here, around 3K2. So it's gonna be a really mid-range focused throw, and that's gonna allow us to kind of be able to push it a little further in the mix without it being harsh on your ears or kind of sounding like it's floating on the mix. Generally, the darker something is, the farther it's gonna feel like it's away from the mix. And then if it's brighter, it's gonna feel more like it's up front in your face. So generally, if you think about it like that, you can kind of figure out how you wanna be able to place things distance-wise in your mix as well. And with this EQ, I'm just doing real simple moves. I just have a high pass here just to make sure there's nothing going on in the sub. And then once again, also have this 500 hertz, just little cut. And then when you start to layer that, it sounds like this in the mix. Now this one's a little bit more of a specialty thing, but it's something you can pull off super easily with pretty much no effort. And this one is doing some pitch shifted vocals on something that you really want to put some emphasis on. So for this one, we have a couple different layers going on. I have this main normal mono layer that's kind of just our main vocal. And now I have this stereo one, which processing is pretty much the same on this one, but slightly different just because I have some little micro shift on this one, which is why it's a stereo track. So that gets it the width. Then now if we add on crispy tuner, as you can see, I have the correction turned off. We're not really doing anything with it, but I am using the formant shift. And I'm turning this one up just so I can get a more high pitched sound. And this is the sound we're getting with that on. As you can tell, it's super chipmunky and kind of goofy, but when you layer it on top of the vocal, you get kind of a cool texture. Go to the next layer, which is gonna be our low layers. We get some really cool stuff going on down there too. Now this one, we just did a left and right. This one is just tracked and then pitched down. So we did 2 separate takes to make sure this one sounded stereo and it wasn't just a mono take that was spread. And that one's pitched down super low, about an octave. And then when you layer it on top of these, you get a really cool texture. So here's what we had before without any of this stuff. And now with. So what I really like about it is it just adds a lot of texture, and here's the difference in the mix. And this final one is one of my favorite ones that I've done a lot over the years, and it was really cool to see this one used in this track that I'm working on with Asylus here. And it is essentially just pretty much doing like a mumble track or a whisper track or some sort of alternative voice doing something to really make you sound like a background singer. And we had a lot of background singers back in the day that were like a unique singer to this person's voice. It wasn't just stacking the same singer over and over again. It's something that can add a lot to your track, and I think this is one where it benefits a ton. So essentially what we started with on the vocal is just a normal like mumbly rap vocal that's a lot different than his normal scream.
I see cracks in my mental prison, what awake, can escape, will I be forgiven, don't lose a faith, could I go himself a haunted vision, but I'm a slave to my bad prison, yeah.
So as you can tell, he's going through, obviously the timing's not lacking or anything. It's really important that you are matching and like really dialing down on getting the doubles to line up. Once you get on to the track, I have this virtual mix rack where I have just a normal 1176 bluey, and then I have this saturation.
I see cracks in my mental prison, what awake, can escape, will I be forgiven, don't lose a faith, could I go himself a haunted vision, but I'm a slave to my bad prison, yeah.
Super simple, not doing too much, not really smashing it too hard. Then we have this L1 limiter. This one is starting to poke it down a couple dB, I believe.
I see cracks in my mental prison, what awake, can escape, will I be forgiven, don't lose a faith, could I go himself a haunted vision, but I'm a slave to my bad prison, yeah.
And then after that, obviously, it gets pretty essy, so I had this heavy de-esser on to make sure that we're not gonna be like super harsh, because this one is a super wide vocal.
I see cracks in my mental prison, what awake, can escape, will I be forgiven, don't lose a faith, could I go himself a haunted vision, but I'm a slave to my bad prison, yeah.
I have this NS1, which is just gonna be cutting down a little bit on the noise.
I see cracks in my mental prison, what awake, can escape, will I be forgiven, don't lose a faith, could I go himself a haunted vision, but I'm a slave to my bad prison, yeah.
The EQ is super simple. I'm just cutting a little bit of low mids, and then a little bit of mids here, and then just doing a high pass just to make sure it's not too muddy. And then I'm repeating this whole process for the other 3 layers, which are just 2 doubles for each set of this verse. Once again, we'll go over what it sounds like with and without it, which in my opinion just shows you like how awesome this one is, and it just really adds so much to the song. That's all I've got for today's video. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below or just message me on any of the social medias that I linked in the description. Have a good one and stay creative.